You're on Fox Carolina News with Ed Buffington with the Community Tap. So, Ed, we've talked a lot leading up to this day. This new liquor liability reform, tort reform, is now law in the state of South Carolina. Lawmakers celebrating it today in Columbia, but you, as a business owner here in the Upstate, how have you already been affected when it comes to this shift? I know it was just signed by the governor today, but it's something that you were calling for. So, where do things stand right now for you and your businesses?
Well, first up, I think the lawmakers do deserve some congratulations. They do deserve a pat on the back. I know that this was not easy. I know that they debated and legislated this bill and went back and forth many, many times. They worked late into the night to get this accomplished. This is something that a lot of businesses like mine, we desperately needed to get into place. However, the challenges aren't over. So the lawmakers have done their job. They have gotten legislation passed. Governor McMaster signed it into law. This is all wonderful news. We needed this. This was the biggest hurdle that we needed to get over to move forward, to make sure that companies like mine can get insurance moving forward in the state of South Carolina, so that small businesses, restaurants, bars can stay in business and continue to operate and employ people around the state. So that's great news. But the reality of the situation is now the lawmakers did their job. Now we need the insurance companies to be able to step back in, come back into the state, recognizing that South Carolina is a place that wants to do business and start and reviewing this law. So it's not going to happen overnight. So insurance companies review this law, see the changes, and recognize that there's not as much exposure to risk to them as there was previously, and that they can now come back into South Carolina, do businesses with companies like mine, so that we can all stay in business and keep everybody employed. So this is great news, but the battle is far from over.
That's something we've talked about, where you're saying where ultimately something needed to be done because not only was the cost climbing, but also companies were leaving. And so what is now your message to maybe those insurance companies, trying to get them to come back in hopes that this thing could really change quicker, sooner rather than later?
What I would say is we need it. We need insurance companies to look at South Carolina and not be scared to do business here. We need those insurance companies to come back in, because otherwise, if companies like mine can't get insurance for 2026 or moving on, we're still facing the real threat of closures. That hasn't abated. So the comment to the insurance companies is like, let's start having these conversations. Let's start educating your staff and on our side as well, to understand what are the real impacts of this law? How does it change the way insurance companies can do business? How does it change the way that we can approach our look at insurance and start working together? So the public side of this equation, I always love to look at things like this as public-private partnerships. The public side of the equation has done their job. Now it's time for us on the private side to do our jobs. Let's get back into the business of keeping people employed and making money and move on.
What do you want customers to know? A lot of concern with customers, concerned that their favorite bar or restaurant was about to shut down. What do you want them to know at this point?
A little bit of what I was just talking about with the insurance companies. So overwhelmingly, we have had such positive feedback and positive support from our customer base that I need to say thank you to those people who reached out to their lawmakers to give that extra little push, that extra little pressure to make sure that this law got passed. So a lot of the questions I'm getting now are just that. It's like, what's the next step? So the law is passing, or is passed now. What's the next step? And there's this celebratory, like, oh, the law is passed, everything's going to be great, and it can and will be. But now we need the insurance companies to engage and do their part, so that we can all kind of put this in our rear view and focus on just providing good customer service and providing a fun time for everybody in a safe and welcoming environment.
All right, we'll continue to follow every step of the way. Ed Buffington with the Community Tap. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.